Dallas Cowboys football is back. The Cowboys and Steelers kicking off Hall of Fame weekend with a game tonight at 7 from Canton, Ohio. We'll get you caught up on all team news and updates ahead of kickoff. Talk about the former Dallas Cowboys being inducted into the Hall of Fame this weekend. And we'll even have live updates out from Canton, Ohio, as well as Oxnard, California. With Isaiah Stanback and Barry Church, I'm Danny Surek here from the Globe Live studio. This is Cowboys Pregame Live. This is a very special and unique opportunity for these Cowboys players to be around the very best who have contributed to this league. Barry, you've actually played in a Hall of Fame game back in 2010 when running back Emmitt Smith was inducted into the Hall of Fame. How special is it to play in this Hall of Fame game, celebrating those being enshrined this weekend?
It's a wonderful experience. When I was able to go through the Hall of Fame game in 2010, it was my first NFL experience overall. And as a young guy going in there, of course I was nervous. Of course, the butterflies were rolling in there. But we got to see one of the greatest, if not the greatest running back get enshrined into the Hall of Fame, and that was Emmitt Smith. And that alone was an amazing experience. So hopefully all these young guys going out there, they do well on the football field, and they get to embrace and take in this whole Hall of Fame atmosphere that's going to be in Canton.
And maybe use it as some motivation on where they want to find themselves at the end of their career. This is the first preseason game for the Dallas Cowboys, first preseason game since 2019 for the entire league. While this game doesn't have any significance in terms of the regular season record or playoff implications, this preseason game and the other three coming up still hold a lot of significance and importance, especially for this Cowboys team that didn't have any preseason games last year. Isaiah, what are you looking for from the Cowboys, not only the players, but the coaching staff to get out of this game?
Yeah, I'm looking for continuity. Right, I'm looking for continuity. I'm looking for energy. I'm really looking for that culture change that we've been talking about. Right, we have a new addition in Dan Quinn and the excitement that comes with him and his new scheme that he's going to present. So I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys come out, give relentless effort, have some continuity, right, execution in terms of their assignments, and then go out there and just go all the way to the wall and just give it all they have.
Yeah, I want to see what this defense got. I'm going to be honest. I'm a little bit biased. I played defense my whole career, but, what Dan Quinn has brought to this team has been an energy that we haven't seen around here in a couple years. So I want to see how those guys go out there, fight, and understand the playbook. But it should be an interesting game.
Cowboys are playing the Hall of Fame game out from Canton, Ohio. And our Nick Eatman is out there with the team as well. We're going to bring him into the Pregame Live crew. Nick, you got us?
I can hear you guys. I think some of the Steelers or the Cowboys are running onto the field, but I certainly can hear you guys. You guys sound great. I'm glad football's back.
Yeah, all of us are. We appreciate you hopping on here with us. What are you looking for in tonight's game from the team? You've been out in Oxnard, California at training camp, so what are you hoping to see tonight?
Well, I'm going to steal a line from Barry Church. I'm looking at that defense as well. Yes. The linebackers. They drafted Micah Parsons. He's going to play. And Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith are going to get a few reps as well. Wasn't sure how that was going to work with the first team. I don't think they'll be in here long. So if you're going to get something to drink or miss a few snaps, you might miss them. But I do want to see those three guys and just how Dan Quinn gets everybody in there. Keanu O'Neal, just fix all those linebackers in there at once. It's going to be fun to see.
Hey, Nick, it's good to see you out there, man. It's Isaiah. Hey, I want to know, what have you heard? Obviously, your feet on the ground there at camp, and now you're in Canton, Ohio at the game. What are you hearing as far as the special teams? What are you looking forward to seeing there? And what are you kind of hearing coming out of camp in terms of some guys that we should be looking for?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see just how many guys John Fossil gets to keep. Those special teams coach, they're greedy. They want those guys. But we're hearing a lot of players that are core special teamers, the C.J. Goodwins, the Maurice Kennedys of the world. Luke Gifford could work himself into that mix and see how he plays. So from those guys, Noah Brown at wide receiver, also Malik Turner. So I think it's going to be really competitive there. And then, of course, Hunter Nicewander did a good job at punting, but he's going to be the kicker here until Greg Zuerlein gets back. Not sure he's going to get a chance to really unseat Brian Anger at the punter position. So a lot of new guys, even from the deep snapper. A lot of new faces there, but John Fossil's been around the block a long time. I think they're going to really do a good job of meshing it all together.
Nick, thanks so much for joining us here at Cowboys Pregame Live. We look forward to seeing your recap of the game on DallasCowboys.com. We'll see you when you get home in a few weeks.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Not everyone is making the trip out to Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame game. A few starters specifically are still in Oxnard, California. The big names on that list: quarterback Dak Prescott, who has a muscle strain in his throwing shoulder, that right arm. Left tackle Tyron Smith has some elbow tendonitis. Wide receiver Amari Cooper is nursing an ankle injury he had offseason surgery on. Defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence dealing with his back surgery that he's coming off of. And defensive tackle Tristan Hill coming off that ACL injury last season. So while not every starter will be in Canton, Ohio, some of them still will be, and we're expecting to see a few snaps at least of the starters. Barry, how much playing time should the starters get tonight?
Well, if last year didn't happen and we didn't get ravaged by injuries last year, I would say going into this preseason, for the whole preseason, these starters should maybe get, 5 series at most. You could break it up, 2 in game 2 and then 3 series in that, tune-up game 3. But seeing as though it's going to be almost a year as before some of these guys, some of these starters have actually played football out there. So for me, if I'm going out there, anybody outside of Dak Prescott or those starters that are nursing injuries, I feel as though they should get about 6 to 8 series throughout this whole preseason, whether you break that up, 4 and 2 and 4 in game 3. But I think they should get more reps, seeing as though their first live action. I don't want to see it against Tampa Bay because I don't think that'll be a good outcome. But I think these guys should get an uptick in their preseason reps.
I'm glad you said the entire preseason. I thought you were about to say this game.
Oh, no, sir.
No, but I'm looking. I don't expect to see any of these guys really step up and play today. I don't see the coaches putting them in that situation because whether I know that's not what fans want to hear. However, there's a team that's coming to camp this weekend, right, by the name of the Los Angeles Rams. So those guys, that's going to be their preseason game in terms of our starters.
You mentioned that a lot of these starters, veterans, haven't played preseason game in quite some time, but there are also some rookies that this is really important for. Linebacker Micah Parsons, cornerback Kelvin Joseph, who didn't have a full season or, like Parsons, completely opted out of their last season in college because of COVID. So it's been some time that they have played a game as well. Head coach Mike McCarthy spoke earlier this week about his excitement for this preseason game and when we can expect to see quarterback Dak Prescott throwing again.
To me, this is what the preseason's always been about. I mean, you're able to, get your starters and, guys that you have history with. You can get most of your work done in the practices. But, this is about the development of your roster, the competition of your roster, and, what better way to let these guys compete than these preseason games. So I've always loved the preseason game for the younger players. I think it's just something we've kind of taken a step back. We still feel the same about the type injury, but we're just being more conservative with the timeline. He will not throw today. He will not play in the game Thursday night is the plan. After the research and looking at it, we just don't want this to turn into something big. So it's he's doing everything that he possibly can, but we're just being a little more conservative with his rehab.
The Cowboys are taking a step back, not a setback, being a little more conservative with Dak Prescott and how much he throws because of that muscle strain on his right shoulder, his throwing arm. Isaiah, how concerning is this injury?
You know what? I used to play this position. I played quarterback all through college, and I played a little bit in the NFL as well. So as many sore shoulders as I've had in my history, I've never needed an MRI on my throwing shoulder. So it's a little worrisome from that regard, right, from a former quarterback to Dak. But, they know what they're doing, right? Dallas Cowboys have the best training staff in the league. So if there is any concern in terms of his ability to come back from this, I think it's something we would have known about. They're just taking it easy. He wasn't going to play in this game anyway. So they're taking the right precautions.
I hope you're right. As well as, the whole Cowboys nation, we hope you are right in that assessment of him. You would know more than anybody. You played the position. So I know all the throwing mechanics and different angles you got to throw at can get your arm sore, especially after that lengthy break he took. He hasn't, thrown the ball as much as he should have or wanted to during this offseason. So he's going to be a little fatigued in that throwing shoulder. But like you said, hopefully it's nothing, and they'll be able to work it out with rehab during this little break, and he'll be back better than ever.
Right. It's important that he still gets some practice reps because he is coming off that season-ending right ankle injury. We can expect tonight to be the Garrett Gilbert show starting under center, and can also expect to see other fellow backup quarterbacks Ben DiNucci and Cooper Rush. Here are the backup quarterbacks earlier this week on how they're preparing for this preseason game mentally.
For me, that was never a focus of mine. Listen, obviously I want to win the backup job. That's my goal. I think that's all of our goal that are here behind Dak. But I think to focus on who I'm competing with specifically would be getting in the way of what I'm trying to do and how I'm trying to improve every day. So my goal is just simply to go out there, get better, be the best quarterback I can be for this team, and let the chips fall where they may. And I think that's kind of served me well in the past, and that's what I'll continue to focus on every day, is just continue to improve and get better.
Yeah, that's the life of the backup Q. You're always battling for it. That's what you love. You love playing ball. You love competing. And just excited to have the preseason games this year to be able to go and show in a game environment kind of what you're about.
Yeah, I mean, that's not up to me. Whatever, Coach McCarthy and Coach Nussmeier decide on, playing time, that'll be up to them. Whether it's, one snap or 3 quarters, I'm going to go out there and treat it like, I'm the starter whenever I'm in the game. And, the best I can do is, prepare to the best of my ability, make sure I got my guys in the right spot. We got a lot of young guys, a lot of rookies who, haven't played. I consider myself a rookie to some extent too, not having this last year and only, playing in 1 game last year. So it'll be really good for us to kind of get in the flow of games, get things figured out on the fly, and just go out there, have fun, and play.
All 3 backup quarterbacks have been getting some extra reps out at training camp in Oxnard, California, because Dak Prescott has been limited with that right arm muscle strain. And our Kyle Yeomans has been out in Oxnard getting a close look at how these backup quarterbacks have looked. Kyle, welcome into the show. Could you not handle the Texas heat? You had to go out to California and leave us?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm sad I'm not there in Texas with you guys with the show. I'm sad I'm not in Canton. I think I stubbed my toe the other day as I was in my kitchen, and they left me behind on the charter flight. They said, you got to stay out in California. But, hey, I'm not complaining about the weather.
They're going to put you on the IR list, Kyle. Kyle, you've been out in Oxnard, California. You've had a close look at these backup quarterbacks the last few days as they've been getting more reps. We can expect to see Garrett Gilbert getting the start tonight. How ready do these backup quarterbacks look heading into the Hall of Fame game tonight?
Yeah, I think there's a long way to go for all 3 quarterbacks. And if you want to start from the top, I think Garrett Gilbert is the most ready for some game action. And we saw that a little bit last year throughout 2020 when he did come in Week 9 against Pittsburgh and really got an opportunity to step in, even with limited action and limited preparation beforehand. Now he's been around the team a little bit, and you heard from him a couple moments ago. But another thing he said in that interview is he feels comfortable with these number 1 guys, with guys like Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb. And, of course, at least a couple of those offensive linemen that were in front of him during his 1 career start that came last year. So I think Gilbert's the most ready. As far as Ben DiNucci goes and Garrett Gilbert go, it's really up in the air. I think Ben DiNucci is going to benefit the most from having these game reps just as a developmental player at the quarterback position. Still has to really find a way to figure out a decent internal clock in the pocket, because he seems comfortable on the run. He seems comfortable scrambling out wide. However, whenever he is in the pocket, he really did struggle throughout the time in Oxnard. And then Cooper Rush, he's had his fair share of preseason success. He's just trying to replicate it.
Kyle, man, how's it going? It's church here, man. Like Danny said, we're down in this Texas heat. But I got a quick question for you, man. I'm going to pivot a little bit here. I'm going to talk about the guys in the trenches a little bit. How has this offensive line, I know we're not going to see any of the starters tonight, but how has these young guys on the offensive line, talking about Terrence Steele and Brandon Knight, how have they performed so far at Oxnard at camp?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same questions that you had about the quarterbacks, Barry, because there is so many question marks back behind the initial starters that it doesn't necessarily make you feel comfortable. And I think you're going to see a lot of Terrence Steele tonight. You're going to see a lot of Brandon Knight tonight as well. They'll probably play the tackle spots. You might even see Brandon Knight a little bit inside at the guard spot a little. I think Mike McCarthy said it best that Terrence Steele really stepped up to the plate this offseason and challenged himself to improve upon his frame, because last year he really did have a top-heavy frame. He really seemed like a guy that was thrown into the mix, which he was as an undrafted free agent out of Texas Tech. He was thrown into the mix, and he really needed a chance to kind of find a rhythm. He did so toward the end of the year, and he continued that momentum into the offseason. He's had a really nice camp so far, and I think at the moment, don't put this on. I'm not going to put this in writing just yet, but I think if you were to ask me, he's your swing tackle right now, and I think Ty Nsekhe needs to step up and have a really good preseason in that regard as well.
It might not be in writing, Kyle, but just remember, everything lives on the internet.
And Kyle, don't think that you're going to just slide that kitchen comment by us, man. You can't just tell us that you have a kitchen in Oxnard. I know the times when we were down there, we didn't have a kitchen.
He got the loft set up.
He got the loft set up. Must
be
nice.
Big time. He's big
Must
time.
Be nice. No, but Kyle, man, my question to you, man, is in terms.
You guys are such liars.
In terms of the backup quarterback situation, all right, obviously you already talked about Garrett Gilbert and his comfort. Obviously, he seems like the undoubtedly number 2 QB right now. Between Cooper Rush and Ben DiNucci, if you had to name a QB3 right now, from what you've seen in Oxnard, who would you say has the lead?
You know, it's tough because they've really split those reps back and forth between each other. But I think right now, and this may not be the popular answer with what we've seen in Oxnard, but I think it would be Ben DiNucci. I think he is still a developmental player that came from a smaller school and has not necessarily been around the league long enough to put together a full-fledged picture of what kind of quarterback he could potentially be. He's still a second-year guy, did not have a full offseason a year ago. Cooper Rush has been in the Cowboys organization or an NFL organization since 2017. I mean, you go back to the preseason in 2017, he had 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, really showed out, but that was the top of what we saw of what Cooper Rush could be. I still don't think we've seen the top of Ben DiNucci. So right now, I would keep it Garrett Gilbert number 2, and then Ben DiNucci would be my 3, but it is a very tight battle, and that's going to be something to watch throughout the offseason.
Kyle, we appreciate you joining us here in Cowboys Pregame Live. We'll be thinking of you as you nurse your toe injury, and we'll be keeping our eye out for you on DallasCowboys.com, all your videos and articles as you continue to cover training camp out in Oxnard, California.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Y'all have fun.
So we know Kyle ranks Garrett Gilbert and then Ben DiNucci as his quarterbacks 2 and 3. Isaiah, do you agree or do you have a different ranking?
You know what? Right now, I haven't had eyes on site, right? I haven't seen these guys in person, but after tonight, I will have a clear understanding as to who I believe is a QB3 right now, because I think we'll come out and we'll probably see Gary Gilbert out there for the first quarter. Quarters 2 through 4. You're going to see a heavy dose of DiNucci and Rush. So you'll have a great understanding of their comfort level. You have a great understanding of how they're managing this team and how they're really leading this offense, even though they're not considered obviously number 1 or 2.
Yeah, and for me, I was a huge Garrett Gilbert fan, especially last year when he was able to come into that Pittsburgh when they were undefeated at the time and made it a real competitive battle out there, and I liked what he can do. But after hearing these reports and seeing what I've seen so far at camp, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit nervous at our backup quarterback position, and I'm not quite sure if the backup to Dak Prescott for this regular season is on the roster right now. I'm not quite sure. They haven't performed that great at camp, but maybe these guys are some gamers, and we'll see what they can do this preseason.
We'll see pretty shortly. The game starting at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Let's talk now about the players who will be protecting the backup quarterbacks, the offensive line. The Cowboys' offensive line was hit hard by injuries in 2020. 4 of the 5 starters missed multiple games due to injuries. Left tackle Tyron Smith with a neck injury, right tackle Lyle Collins with a hip, right guard Zach Martin with a calf, and center Tyler Biotish with a hamstring. Zach Martin and Tyron Smith did not travel to Canton, Ohio. They are still in Oxnard, California. Isaiah, what are you looking to see out of the offensive line, the players who are in Canton in tonight's Hall of Fame game?
I just want to see consistency. I want to see these guys come out and just run their assignments. No blown coverage, not coverages, no blown assignments, right? It's really easy for offensive linemen to get exposed in these preseason games. It is really easy, especially when you start talking about these tackles, right? Left tackle, right tackle. The guards have a little bit of assistance, obviously, because they're hip to hip with a center. But we're going to see exactly who has the confidence, not only in this particular game, but in their abilities, because it's just really easy to get exposed, and I hope that they don't.
It's really easy to get exposed out there in the preseason, and I'm with you on that. I want to see what these guys as a unit can do. Is the communication well? Are they letting just blitzers come scot-free and get into our quarterbacks, or are they playing as a unit and they're fighting out there? I would love to see that. I mean, a couple of these guys have had experience last year with all the injuries we had. We had to play kind of fantasy football on the offensive line there for a little bit, but these guys have some experience, so I want to see the continuity of these guys, how they communicate, and if they fight out there. And if they do that, I think this Cowboys offense should be all right.
These preseason games are incredibly important for these offensive line backups because we saw them so often last year. You want to feel a little more comfortable with them this year. Consistency and communication is incredibly important for the offensive line, and you get that through reps, continuous reps together, the consistency, the continuity. How much is that cohesiveness affected when these starters are not playing preseason games together?
It's pretty serious. Yeah, it's pretty serious, especially when you start talking about the big fellas. The big fellas operate as one unit, right? It's no different than a hand, right? You can ball up a fist, and that's exactly how they want to operate. That's how they want to move. So when you start taking elements out of that, it makes it really hard for them to communicate. Obviously, I don't think in this first game we'll see too many stunts on the defensive line, so the communication shouldn't be too crazy in terms of passing off assignments. But these guys are going to have to find a way to mesh, and they can't use the preseason as an excuse because this is their opportunity.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like these starters need to get a little bit more playing time as well, because like you said, that continuity, you don't want to just go out to Tampa Bay being your first action at Live Bullets, and those guys are going to be stunting and playing all over the place. So as an offensive line, we got to get that continuity. We got to become together as a unit, and we just got to play better than we did last year.
Terrence Steele got a lot of playing time last year as the swing tackle due to injuries to the starters. He talked earlier this week on how that valuable experience is helping him heading into this year.
Football and mental standpoint, I just have a lot more experience. I got to start 14 games last year, played in all 16. Yeah, I'm more like the game's slowing down mentally, and then physically, I shed about 10, 15 pounds this last season, and I've been working on my core, been working on my lower body, my legs, and my feet. Your feet are a big part of everything, so yeah, I've been working on that. I thought I took advantage of everything that came my way, so I was happy, excited for myself and everything I accomplished, but I wasn't satisfied at all, not even close. So that's why I did what I did this offseason and put the work in. So.
Time now to look at our fan tweet, our first one of the night. Ooh, look at that. Well, not so much a fan, just the NFL, but we'll take it because it's about wide receiver CeeDee Lamb heading into year 2. Offensive coordinator Kellen Moore has told us to expect to see him moving around the field more, not so much just in the slot. How excited are you to see, Barry, what CeeDee Lamb can bring into year 2?
I'm super excited, especially from what Kellen just said. They're going to move him around and try to confuse defenses. They're not going to just leave him in the slot or leave him on the outside. They're going to move him around. You got to find ways to get your playmakers the ball. And defenses are going to key on him if he's specifically locked in at one spot. So if they're able to go out there, move him around a little bit, give him in jet sweeps or get him in bunches, it'll give opportunities for him to get the ball and do what he does best, and that's make plays.
Yeah, he's going to make a lot of plays this year. I think he's going to be a huge asset to this offense. Not only this offense, but this entire team. We need to move the chains, right? That's what this game is about. It's about consuming time, moving the chains, and not turning the ball over. And I think he gives us that opportunity. Obviously, last year, he had a pretty good last year. He had some drops, but he also has 17 quarterbacks in there throwing him the ball. So timing is a real thing. But this year, I really expect for him not only to take that big step up, but to also take that next step in terms of his physicality. I think that, last year he came in kind of thin. And I think he took that to heart this offseason because you could tell in camp he got some ham hocks on him now. He got some ham hocks on him now. He's making a lot of catches, he's making a lot of big plays. But as soon as we get this first action of him in this preseason, we're going to have an idea of exactly how much of a stride he took this year.
These preseason games are a great measuring stick, not only for players like CeeDee Lamb coming into year 2 and seeing the transformation they've made, but also for the rookies and how much they have absorbed thus far throughout the offseason. Let's take a look, a reminder at the Cowboys Rookies, who they drafted this year, pretty much all defense. Linebacker Micah Parsons in the first round, cornerback Kelvin Joseph. Barry, how much do you want to see out of these rookies, and where should they be right now in terms of how much they know the scheme and they know the playbook?
Well, they're going to get all the basics today. They're not going to get any, crazy exotic blitzes or anything like that or any coverage. You're going to hear basically cover 3, man-to-man. You might sprinkle in some cover 2 right there. But what I'm grading these young rookies are basically what the coaches are going to grade them on. The basics and how they understand the playbook. If there's a lot of busts in coverage or guys running wide open down the middle of the field, then they're going to have a problem. And when you get to the basics is when you get to the tackle that running back one-on-one in the hole, is he falling forward for a couple extra yards, or are you standing him up, driving him back into the dirt? They're going to grade on that. They're going to grade on open field tackling. How is your angles to the ball? Are you using your help from your defensive guys when you're going to make that tackle in the open field? So they're going to do a lot of grading in that regard. But I expect these guys to go out there and run around the field with their hair on fire. I mean, they came in talking a lot of stuff as rookies, so I expect to go out there and they're running around with their hair on fire.
Assignments. If there's one thing that will get you on the bubble or get you cut, it is your lack of executing your assignments.
True.
The coaches want to see you be able to process what was put down on paper, process the walkthroughs, and take it out there. And when you get in the most competitive element, they want to make sure that you can still execute. And a lot of times, these coaches are going to run these boys into the ground today. These boys are going to have more reps, right, than they've ever had. And they're going to be tired. They're going to be anxious. They're going to be excited. You got this Hall of Fame game. You got all the vets, all the great Cowboys that's sitting out there watching you wearing, some of them wearing their numbers, right? So there's a lot of pressure in this game, and they want to see, even when you're at your most tired, even when you're gassed, the first thing that goes is your mind. When you're dog tired, the first thing that goes is your mind and your assignments. And your technique, they're not going to judge too much because they know how much you have on you. But there's no excuse for a missed and a blown assignment. So that's what they're going to be paying attention to today.
Let's send it on out now to our David Hellman and Rob Phillips out from Oxnard, California, on which rookies they have their eye on in tonight's game.
Thanks, guys. And yes, this is not Canton, Ohio. This is Oxnard, California. But Dave, we have watched every minute of every practice out here on the West Coast. Give me your thoughts on what you've seen so far out here and who you're watching tonight in the opener.
I think what I've seen so far is just a really healthy level of competition, to be honest with you. I mean, we know this is a high-powered offensive team. We've seen that. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is the star of camp, but this defense has made life difficult on the Cowboys offense at all levels, really. And I think that's the exciting thing for me about this game is there are so many young players who've never had this experience. I mean, an 11-person draft class, right? How about last year's draft class that didn't get to do this in 2020 thanks to COVID-19? So that's 2 rookie classes getting their first preseason game. I mean, Ben DiNucci, this is what should have happened for him last year, right? An hour and a half away from his hometown, by the way, against his hometown team. That's really fun. I could just go down the list. I mean, Israel Mukuamu is a name that stands out to me. Rookie safety who's had some nice plays out here, going to get his first game action. Quentin Bohanna, Jabril Cox, going back to last year, so maybe some of these young receivers that can stand out. Malik Turner, who didn't get to do a lot last year, who's had a great camp. I mean, the list goes on, and we assume, not a lot of the stars are going to play a whole lot, so we're going to see a lot of these guys.
Can I throw out an obvious name to you?
Please.
Garrett Gilbert.
Sure.
At the quarterback position, probably going to get a lot of reps, at least for, before the other 2 guys go in. You mentioned DiNucci as well as Cooper Rush, but he's competing for that backup job not only with the other 2 guys, but with the rest of the country in a way. Just whoever is available, who might come available at some point, because the Cowboys have said they're looking for competition potentially at that spot, always keeping their eyes open. Although I will say he's been productive the last couple days, kind of the offense settling in a little bit out here after a couple days where the defense was just absolutely dominant.
Yeah, I mean, it was rough when Dak stopped throwing. The first practice without him looked pretty gross, if we're being honest, but it's definitely gotten a lot better. I think Garrett looks really comfortable, and you're right. I mean, he's going against 31 other camps because some guys are going to become available as we go through this thing, whether that's through trade or waiver claims or whatever. So he doesn't just have to be better than Ben DiNucci and Cooper Rush. He's got to be better than everybody else's backups as well. To this point, I think he looks good, but I want to see what happens with the lights on.
Like you said, we finally got football once again. I, for one, can't wait for Drew Pearson's Hall of Fame speech this weekend.
You think it'll be better than his draft speech?
I don't think anything can top that, but I think it'll be pretty good. Back to you guys in studio.
The Cowboys will soon be rejoining Dave and Rob out in Oxnard, California, ahead of their scrimmage this Saturday against the Los Angeles Rams. And you can watch that scrimmage on DallasCowboys.com. That starts at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Isaiah, you will be out there in Oxnard. You'll be your eyes on the ground. So then you'll come back and you'll tell us what you see and what you like about the Cowboys' first-round draft pick, linebacker Micah Parsons out of Penn State. There are lofty expectations when you are chosen 12th overall in the first round of the draft, especially a linebacker. Cowboys are really relying on his versatility because that is something they need in their linebacker room. Isaiah, what are you expecting to see from Parsons in his first preseason game?
I want to see him be able to bear the weight of all the assignments that he's been given. We everything. If you've heard anything come out of this camp in regards to Micah Parsons, it's been about how much they're testing him, how much they're loading him up. They have him rushing as a defensive end. They have him blitzing from linebacker. They have him running out in coverage. They got him probably playing every special teams as well, just because they want to see how much he can bear. Now he's going to be responsible for communicating across that whole defensive front. So he's going to be responsible not only for his assignments, but also for everybody else that's next to him and in front of him. So that's one of the things that's probably tough for a rookie to be able to come in and have those expectations on him, not only to perform for yourself, but to also be responsible for other people.
Yeah, I got to see what he can do as far as, like you said, communication, making sure he gets the front line lined up, the secondary, his counterpart at linebacker, make sure he gets all those guys lined up and playing in the right direction. And I want to see what his endurance level is like as well, because this is a guy he has a lot on his plate. Like you said, he's going to be rushing the passer. He's going to be having to call plays at linebacker. He's going to be all over the field. And these series are going to be long. They're not going to be, 3-4 plays. They're going to be some 10, 15 play series out there, and he's going to be playing a lot. So I want to see where his endurance is and his understanding of the playbook. But this guy's a playmaker. He was drafted 12th overall for a reason, so I got to see what he can do out there on the field.
Here's Parsons earlier this week on how he found his footing back on the football field after opting out of the 2020 season with Penn State.
I say I got back into my flow and minicamp and OTAs. Right now, I just say I'm going to just keep trying to get better and get focused in on my playbook and find a way to get on the field as much as possible. I think DQ is someone, he's hard to impress. I don't think he's ever satisfied. He always wants you to keep getting better. So that's kind of coach that you want to be under. And every day he comes up to me with something new that he wants to do with me. So I don't take it as a bad thing. I take it as this is an honor, because that much he believes in me and my talents and what I could bring to this team and the defense. So I'm kind of just taking it in this is what he wants me to do, so I can keep getting better. So if he's obviously going out his way to stay with me and, hey, you understand this, do you need help with this, and just almost anything, whether it's playbook, life, he's someone he's checking on me every day. So I'm just taking in that he really believes in me, and just taking in as he sees me doing great things this year.
Parsons with high praise for defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, who's in his first year as defensive coordinator here with the Cowboys. There's a lot of pressure on these rookies in their first preseason game to prove that they deserve a spot on the roster. However, there's also pressure on Quinn, his first game with the Cowboys as defensive coordinator, coming off a historically bad year defensively. Isaiah, how much of that same pressure is on Quinn to prove he's the right guy to turn this defense around?
Yeah, Quinn has a ton of pressure on him, right? But I know him personally because he was one of my coaches when I was playing for the Seattle Seahawks years ago. And one thing I know about Quinn is he is going to be relentless, right? He's going to be excited. He's going to be amped up. And he's going to expect the same thing of his players. One thing that you want to see not only from him but from this entire defense is a drastic culture change. You want to see these guys coming flying around with their hair on fire, being relentless, flying to the ball, making plays, breaking up plays, everything that they can do physically. He wants to see that because guess what? He can correct it. He can correct the minor mistakes here and there, but what he cannot question is your ability to go out there and give it your all every single down. So I cannot wait to see what these guys come out and do underneath Dan Quinn.
Look, for me, I'm going to slow play this one just a little bit. I'm going to slow play it a little bit because last year I was drinking all the Kool-Aid. I was all about Mike Nolan and his defense, and that ended up backfiring on me pretty bad. So I'm going to slow play this one, but I will say this. I love what Dan Quinn has done so far with this defense, promoting competition with all three levels. You're talking about the D-line, the linebackers, and the secondary. He's brought in whether it be free agents, drafted guys. He's promoting competition because he believes competition breeds the best out of all his players. And I'll also say this. It seems as though these players this year have bought into what Dan Quinn is preaching so far. I mean, these guys are flying around the ball, and they've done something at camp this year that they haven't done all last year, and that's take the ball away. We've seen this defense have multiple interceptions on multiple days so far at camp, so hopefully they keep believing what Dan Quinn's putting out there. But overall, I'm going to slow play it until we get into the regular season.
The Cowboys finished with the 31st run defense in the league last year. And if you can't stop the run, it's a domino effect for the rest of the defense because you can't control your opponent's offense. Have the Cowboys made the right moves to stop the run this year?
I like the moves they made. Not only do I like the draft picks that they have in terms of Bo, in terms of Big Bo, or Digizua, all those guys. I like the guys that they picked up. And then you got big guys like Urban that they picked up, right? And some veteran guys up front. So you have a nice mixture of established veterans on the defensive line as well as some hungry rookies that you expect to come in and have an impact. Those guys, that combination along with the expertise of Quinn is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love what they've done so far with this defensive line. And look, last year we've had depth at the defensive line. We just didn't get any productivity out of them. I mean, we were one of the worst in rushing the passer as well as stopping the run. So for us to have a better defensive line, we need great depth. I like what they brought in so far, but if they can't put what they have on paper onto the field, then we're in for a rude awakening. And this defense is going to be just where it was last year. We have to get better against the run, but so far I like what they did with the D-line.
Perhaps the biggest question mark on this roster in terms of what the Cowboys really have at that position is in the secondary. Cowboys lost starters cornerback Chidobe Awuzie and safety Xavier Woods to free agency. They addressed the position groups with a few veterans, and they also drafted cornerback Kelvin Joseph in the second round of the draft this year. Here's Joseph on how the defense as a whole has been working together on the field throughout training camp.
First, it's a blessing just to be here, but it's everything I expected, putting in work, bonding with my teammates, and we just flying around making plays, ready for that first game. We feel like we just go out and dominate against the wide receivers every day in the offense. We got to. That's our standard. That's where we come out. That's our practice mindset. We make them better. They make us better. But they got some dogs on the offense too, so every time we step up, we got to make sure we on our A game.
Not an easy road ahead for the Cowboys secondary. They'll be facing Tampa Bay, Arizona, Kansas City, three incredibly prolific offenses. Barry, is this Cowboys secondary ready for what's ahead of them?
We'll find out. We will find out with this camp. And like I said earlier, I love what, Dan Quinn has done with this defense. He's brought in guys to compete for this job. Nobody's there is locked in. Maybe only Trayvon Diggs on one side. But other than that, it's going to be competition throughout the whole secondary. I love what they did by bringing in, some veteran guys like KZ and Hooker out there who are battling for that whole safety position. But then you also got a mix of guys battling for that number 2 and 3 corner spot. You got the two young guys, Kelvin Joseph, Noshawn Wright, and you got the veterans, Anthony Brown, you got Jordan Lewis, who hasn't traveled to this game today, but that's going to be an interesting battle for the rest of this preseason. Who can lock down that corner spot opposite Trayvon Diggs and that nickel spot on third down?
Yeah, I'm looking forward just to seeing how these lanky secondary guys, whether it's cornerback or Israel in the secondary in terms of safety position, how that's going to play a part, right? How is our front seven going to affect the how fast the quarterback gets the ball out of his hands? And once the quarterback gets the ball out of his hands, are our secondary guys going to get their hands on it? Are they going to be able to turn those knockdowns into turnovers? I'm looking forward to just seeing that and seeing these guys fly around and play with some confidence and speed.
We'll get our first look at these new faces in the secondary in tonight's Hall of Fame game, which kicks off at 7 p.m. out of Canton, Ohio. And this is the kickstart to a weekend-long celebration of the very best who have contributed in some fashion to this league, the Hall of Fame. And there are 3 former Cowboys who will be putting on those highly coveted gold jackets. Wide receiver Drew Pearson with the Hail Mary in 1975 to send the Cowboys to the NFC Championship. Coincidentally, same year the Cowboys lost to the Steelers in their Super Bowl, kind of full circle who they play tonight. Safety Cliff Harris, nicknamed Captain Crash for his hard-hitting tackling. He made the All-Decades team of the 1970s. And former head coach Jimmy Johnson, who led the Cowboys to back-to-back Super Bowl victories and gave us the famous line, "How about them Cowboys?" after the 1992 NFC Championship win over the 49ers. Our Nate Newton won those 2 Super Bowls with the Cowboys under Jimmy Johnson, and Nate joins us now live here on Cowboys Pregame Live. How you doing, Nate?
I'm doing great. How are you? How y'all doing back at the studios?
We're great. We appreciate having you on here with us. You played under former Cowboys head coach Jimmy Johnson, won 2 Super Bowls with him. How deserving is he to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this weekend?
It's long overdue. Coach should have been in years ago, A lot of things have to go into place for a guy like that to come in and have an impact. You can either play a lot of years or coach a lot of years and have a sustained success over a lot of years, or you can come in and be explosive in a 4, 5, 6 year period. And that's what Coach Johnson did. He stripped us down, built us back up, got the right mixture of veterans and youth in here, man. And the next thing you know, man, it was that NFC Championship game against them 49ers when everybody was thinking we was a year away. And this thing turned out to be, how about them Cowboys? You know what I'm saying?
How about them Cowboys? That's right, Nate. He stripped you guys down, built you back up, and he did a pretty good job doing so. How would you describe his coaching style from the years you spent playing for him?
Like a lot of these guys will tell you, church and stand, they'll tell you, the coach you hate the most seemed to be the one that drives you the most. He was critical at times. He was very unfair, we thought at a lot of times, but his only goal was to win Super Bowls. And he told us in one of his very first meetings, after Troy had signed his long-term deal, with the Cowboys. He came in that next day and said, and then after Troy signed, then he signed. He said, I'm letting all of y'all know I'm going to be here long after y'all gone. So y'all need to pick y'all game up because my only goal is to win football games. And over the years, he did certain things that used to blow our mind. His parents came in town one time, and he made it his business to say, my parents are in town. I haven't seen them yet. I've been too busy coaching. I'm right here with you guys the night before the game. When you wake up, I'll be here. And then after the game on Sunday, I'll go and hug my mom and daddy. He always had, whether he did that or not, we didn't know, but he always kept us focused, locked on football. He was a guy that you love to hate, but at the end, that hate turned into pure joy, man, because he's going into the Hall of Fame tonight.
Well, Nate, we appreciate having you here on Cowboys Pregame Live with us. Enjoy the weekend watching Jimmy Johnson get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Very deserving honor.
Thank you. Y'all have a great show. Y'all
Thanks,
sound
Nate.
good.
We'll talk to you in a bit. Because of this Hall of Fame game, the Cowboys have 4 preseason games, which is now an extra preseason game. The NFL added a 17th regular season game, which gave everyone except the Cowboys and the Steelers 3 preseason games. How helpful or hurtful is it to have this extra game, Barry?
Well, I think it can help it can work in both ways. I think one, as a veteran, if you're an established guy out there, having extra preseason games is just another opportunity for you to get hurt out there and for you to not be able to help your team when the regular season comes around. But I also understand it from the other way. Being an undrafted free agent myself, I understand those preseason games are how you make a name for yourself and how you go out there and how you make this team, whether it be on special teams or whether it be on offense or defense. Those opportunities you get in the preseason are how you get your name out there. And it's not only for the team that you're playing for at the time, you're also trying out and putting a resume tape out there for 31 other NFL teams. So I think it can work in both ways. But as you're a veteran, it's like, man, another preseason game. But as a young guy coming in trying to make the team, you need each and every opportunity to show that you can make this squad. And those extra preseason games can help you do that.
Yeah, I agree with Barry. I think for the veterans, they kind of just want to get to the season, right? I mean, camp's long enough. But, for some of these young guys, some of these young guys, these guys, maybe they play a ton tonight. So game 1, they play a lot. And then game 2, they play a little bit less, right? Game 3, they play just a smidge less. And then maybe they've had a good little resume for those 3 games. They don't want a 4th game. Yeah. They don't want a 4th game, right? They don't want a game that could potentially mess their resume up. So depending on how you play, that's what Barry said, can go either way. You want it to end a little bit sooner than later.
We're about to get our first look of this Dallas Cowboys team, their first preseason game of the year, the Hall of Fame game. Cowboys versus Steelers kickoff is set for 7 p.m. However, tune in right back here on DallasCowboys.com. Isaiah, Barry, and myself will have some post-game coverage. We'll talk about how the team looked in their first preseason game. Thanks so much for joining us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. For Isaiah and Barry, I'm Danny Sarek. We'll see you after the game.